words of my mouth and that my thoughts also, Lord, be acceptable to you. Amen. So many are called, but few are chosen. So that, I think we should say that we're comfortable that we're all called by the fact that we're here today. The question then becomes, who gets chosen? And what's God's criteria for making that choice? Well, I would suggest that one element of that, maybe a big one, is the type of stewardship that we use, or our own type of stewardship with what God has given us in the way of time, talent, and treasure to be used in His name. You know, so what I propose to do today, or what I'm going to do today, is share my personal feelings about stewardship. At the time Betty and I decided to get married, I was unchurched. And she told me, as we approached the wedding date, that there was two things that she was going to insist on. One was that we would try to make God the center of our life, our family life. And two, that we would be active church people. And I said, no problem, that's no problem. But then I got to thinking, maybe I ought to find out what's involved in this. So I spent some serious time reading the New Testament. After doing that, I called Minnie back and I said, hey, I'm having some second thoughts about this. She says, what do you mean? I said, well, if this means that I'm going to be standing around on some street corner in a sheet with a tin cup in my hand, I don't think I'm up to it. She says, where in the world did you get that idea? I said, I've been reading the New Testament. Anyone who doesn't need father, mother, brother, sister, and anyone else can't be my disciple. Go sell all you have and give it to the poor, then come and follow me. The real kicker is in Acts, when the church is experimenting with communal living and everybody is selling everything that they own and pooling the funds. Ananias and Sapphira, they sold their property, but they held a few bucks back for a rainy day. Put the kids through college, whatever. But then when confronted by it, by the apostles, they dropped dead right on the spot. So I said, it sounds to me like this is a total commitment kind of thing. Then he said, you don't have to worry about that. You're going to be an Episcopalian. I says, and that makes a difference how? She says, well, we're proud of our Judeo-Christian heritage. Abraham, patron of our faith, was a tither. And the tithe has been a minimum gift of our stewardship, of our finances. It's been a minimum gift has been the biblical standard for thousands of years. Assured by this, we married, and 60 years later, we're still working on making this real in our lives. Then imagine my surprise when about 15 years ago, the Episcopal Church, at its national convention, voted to adopt the tithe as a minimum standard of giving that we should work towards. And our own diocese followed suit 2 years later. They thought about that a long time before they did. So then, 15 years later, how are we doing? The average gift for all Episcopalians last year was $2,400 a year. Our average gift here at Epiphany was $2,540 a year. A little improvement, that's above average. But if you extrapolate that out, and that represents 10% of the income of all Episcopalians, that means that all Episcopalians are living on $25,000 a year. Now, the only good news about that is that with a national standard for poverty, or at the set of $29,000 for a family of 4, we all qualify for food stamps. The heart of our Christian faith is that all we have is God's, and we are called to be responsible stewards of all that is given to us. All things come of thee, O Lord, and of thine own have we given thee. Remember that used to be a congregational response at the offering. I would argue that this is the most difficult country in the history of the world for the Christian to make that statement real in their lives for two reasons. First, we're living in the richest country per capita in the history of the world. We have an economy that used to pride itself on producing millionaires that's now producing billionaires with every new computer application that's developed. We also are products of a national bootstrap mentality that tells us that we can be anything that we want to be if we get the right education and we work hard for it. Success and accomplishments or acquiring wealth is all about valuing us as individuals. We've certainly become the me generation. Secondly, I think that over the last 60 years in our country, we have come to worship a different God. Now, the Bible says that you can't worship God and money, but I think it's materialism that we've come to worship in this country. In the first 20 years of our marriage, Betty and I and our 3 children spent our vacations camping. Not in a motorhome where you take a duplicate of everything you left behind with you. We had a 9x12 tent, we had sleeping bags, air mattresses, we had a couple of picnic coolers, and we had a camp stove. And we could be gone for 3 weeks, on a couple occasions, 4 weeks. And we got along really just well. Now, anytime we pulled into a campground that had hot water showers, well, you can be sure the cheering inside that station wagon. Again, I don't know, there's another, excuse me, let me see. Having that experience, I think, can do two things for you. One is it can put you in touch with the difference between needs and wants. And the second one is it puts you in direct touch with 3/5 of the world's people on the world, 3/5 of the people, of the population of the world that live their entire life that same way. I don't know if there's another country in the world where a major industry is off-site storage for all the things that we can store in 2,000 square foot houses with double and triple garages. There are more off-site storage facilities in the United States than there are McDonald's restaurants. Only 2 homes is not uncommon for the middle class, and multiple mansions for the very wealthy are the norm. Yachts have become minor cruise ships, and our commitment to the latest electronic devices seems insatiable. Millions of people standing in line all night for the latest model to replace the one that they had bought just a year before for $500. That could go on, but it seems to me that our country is totally committed to the pursuit of great God materialism. I think we all are committed in this to a greater or lesser degree. And it's easy for us to evaluate our status. All we have to do is check our last year's tax returns, our checks, books, and credit cards to verify what portion of our income goes to the church or any charitable organization. So then, what does a serious Christian do if he finds that he's caught up in this worship of materialism? And for that, we can turn to good old St. Paul, the biblical armor to arm us for this spiritual war against a false God. In his letter to the Ephesians, he implores us to put on all the armor of God to resist the evil one. For the breastplate of making a pledge so that a portion of all that what God has given blessed us with is restored to him through work in the church. If we pledged, then we can put on the helmet of committing to grow that pledge to the minimum that the Bible requires and that our church has supported in the last 15 years anyway. Beyond that, we can support all of the programs that our outreach committee has selected to help those in need, both here locally and also around the world. The Compassion Coalition, NANA, Holy Family, microloans. We can support all of those things. The important thing is that we commit to start working towards that pledge or that tithe as our commitment to the pledge. Personally, I think Jesus expects a lot more from a serious Christian than just 10% of our time, talent, and treasure. But if, like Grace Sunday, I get to those pearly gates, and that's the only way any of us get there, and my giving is challenged is lacking, like Adam in the Garden of Eve, I can always say, hey, Eddie said it was okay.